Hello, and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we're going to talk about an office in the city that sounds new, but isn't really. It's the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And the director is here. His name is Gabe Diaz. Welcome, Gabe.
Thank you. How you doing?
Good.
All right.
So I'm going to switch this up a little bit. Let's talk about why your office changed, what it used to be called, and kind of what that means, if you would.
Sure. Well, the office, the previous name was very familiar in the community, the Citizens Unity Commission, which was a long-standing effort within the city back in 1995.
It's amazing. We were really one of the first cities, not just in Virginia, but in the country,
Yes.
that did this.
Yes.
Back in that time, yeah.
Yes, but the work sounded like it was just a community-based effort, which in fact it was, with the appointment of city council to recommend citizens to work on diversity and equity efforts within the city. And then the council thought that this should have been a department within the local government. So they made that department establishment with the same name, overseeing two commissions, one being the Citizens Unity Commission and then the CARC, which is a kind of a reactive arm, Citizens Engagement Advisory Review Commission.
When something happens, these citizens can be energized, get more information maybe,
yes, go out and
be
do
able
fact finding and be able to create some sort of sense of calm into the community if
that's
such
appropriate,
action
right.
would be deemed appropriate, definitely.
Yeah.
So that work was being done a long time, before the words DE&I were a thing. And since my time in the department, we found that there was maybe a need for some clarity with the department's name to align better with the work that we were already doing. So we petitioned council for a name change, hence Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, with the tagline of the home of the Citizens Unity Commission, because we didn't want to lose the legacy that work had already laid down into the community. So still holding on to the tag name, and the commission is still very much active.
Right. So you're still the staff support.
Correct.
For that commission, for at least one other commission.
Yes, and the Youth Advisory Group.
Yes. So you're still doing all of that, but you took on the external role in diversity, equity, and inclusion you kind of already had, but you took on an internal role of training and education within the city staff as well.
Yes. There were efforts for a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan internally with our local staff. And we implemented for the first time citywide training to familiarize them with the concepts of unity, inclusion, disability awareness, because those type of things often come from the HR department, but it didn't really have a forefront when you have self-selecting trainings, if you will. So making it available and coming from the office that subscribes to unity,
right.
Why not offer that and make that available? So we had the opportunity to engage all the city staff in a training opportunity, and it was well received. And we're actually gearing up for our annual refresher, if you will, to engage that. So a lot of times the efforts for DE&I seem to be community facing, but understanding that the internal staff, if we're living those values and we're understanding that that's how we want to model or how we want our city to look, we have to be living that as well. So
yeah.
I really feel good that each department is able to receive that knowledge and hopefully take it out into the services that they provide to the city.
Well, let's talk about all those terms. So let's start with unity.
Yes.
What does that mean in the work of your office?
It really means just collaboration and not leaving anyone out. Just understanding that everyone can bring their true, authentic self and be included. So diversity is a word that kind of moves forward with unity, but it really has to happen with inclusion. So a lot of times people want to segregate the different words, but the unity is the one that brings it all together and making sure that every person, every day is included.
All right. So equity.
Equity is the form of ensuring that everyone gets what they need and not so much equal. So it sounds similar to equality, but equity is making sure that resources and opportunity and access is being brought forth to those that might not have an opportunity.
All right. Inclusion?
Inclusion is the active movement of bringing all those diverse folks together. So it's not just, I like to say, inclusion is being asked to dance at the party, not just the invitation.
Got it. And technically I skipped diversity because I felt like you were talking about that in with unity.
Sure.
But it's not quite the same thing.
No, because diversity is just a representation of differences. So we could all have diversity in everywhere we look, but is that being included? Is that being represented and elevated? So the diversity of thought, the diversity of people is amazing, but it's the equity and the inclusion that brings it all together.
And I think when you all started back in '95, diversity was about race, really.
Sure.
But now, and you guys do a diversity college, you do trainings. Describe the range of diversity that you guys talk about or work with.
Yes, well, diversity of thought, of course, is a major piece, and that comes with understanding the differences that include our community. So diversity as far as disability awareness, LGBTQ awareness, and the efforts around making the inclusion efforts and making sure that age discrimination isn't an issue, so diversity and coming through comes with a lot more topics than just that, even with diversity and privilege and access. So just making sure that all those things come into play.
And culture, sort of recognizing, I know you guys do things with Hispanic community, with Muslim community, with all kinds of different groups to make sure they're included and understood.
Absolutely. And that's just it. There's so many different religious populations that reside here, that practice here, so many different cultural aspects that really don't get exposed to others without the help and efforts of a department like this. So we just most recently convened our Muslim friends over at the Rumi Friendship Association with the ending of their Ramadan with a friendship community dinner. And we were able to engage and hear a bit about their culture and have other interfaith conversations about other cultures. So that was a very engaging opportunity that we wouldn't normally, be exposed to if we didn't know that there were, friendships already made.
And food is one of the best ways
you got it.
to appreciate
Anything
someone's culture.
Anything over a meal kind of, relaxes the tone a bit. So it was a very, very great meal that was provided. It was free, of course, and open to the public. So we like to kind of, throw that caveat out there, and definitely helps the convening.
So you personally, Gabe, how did you get into this work? I mean, you are actually relatively new as a city employee, but you had done some things in the community before this.
Sure. Well, lifelong Hampton resident. Always had a heart for Hampton and just, community engagement. So I founded One Love Community Organization, which is a grassroots here in the city that just looked to bridge the gap between law enforcement and citizens. And doing the work here with gathering residents, young people, elders, with community cleanups, with conversations with cops, just standing out in front of the police station, it kind of got the attention of the Citizens Unity Commission, and we received a Unity Award. So with that, just wanted to know who the organization was that gave us this award. So I did some research, and I found out that the Unity Commission was accepting applications for commissioners. So I joined the commission and realized that I could do some of the community things that I was doing on a larger scale citywide, with the association with this commission. And then just kind of got involved, and there was an opening for a program coordinator seat, and I took a stab at that. And 3 years later, I was able to be able to oversee the department.
And that is an interesting progression of
Sure.
of how you moved up, because this, One Love was never your job.
No. That was just
that was your
that
volunteer
was just a community
work.
effort. Yes, it really started at my home. So I did have a 9 to 5, and then I'm a musician, so I say I've got a 9 to 5 and a 5 to 9. So yes, and that was just my own volunteerism that kind of morphed into a career.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that happened. And last time you were here on this show, you were still a civilian and a volunteer.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you were sharing an office with us.
yeah, no doubt. And it really just happened just like that. And I tell people, and it's kind of cliche, when it's your heart's work, it doesn't feel like work. And that's really what it is. So I appreciate the opportunity and be able to serve on a citywide capacity and regionally and beyond.
So you have a really small department.
Sure, right now, small
when you
department
say
in
a program
small
coordinator,
department in
it was
manpower.
the program
Yes,
coordinator, which
yes.
is, I think, now vacant. But what does your office, like if you were to try to describe what you guys do? I mean, it's broad.
It's pretty broad. It's pretty broad. So there is a community component, and then there's an internal component. So what folks have seen out into the community with the support of with the Citizens Unity Commission, are programs and efforts to create access and opportunity and awareness for diversity. So CEO Fest was a big program that came from the Unity Commission, which are community equity opportunities. So we were doing pop-ups in the community relative to the response for COVID-19 and just a total family resilience. So those efforts were happening, as well as partnerships with the Peninsula Food Bank to make sure that we were getting food and resources to vulnerable populations. So making those connections, setting up mobile food pantry sites in the community, bringing the food right there to people,
Right.
putting it in the trunks. The pandemic really proved that there was more, partnership and unity that could happen with the barriers that presented themselves with physical distance, but we were able to make those connections, and a lot of partnerships, really, and that's what the department really relies on, is getting to know other community agencies, other community departments, and finding out what the most pressing needs are and getting those resources right to them. So the department really could have multiple tentacles, but it really is about unification and getting people involved and excited about the diversity that they live in.
But it is also about finding and becoming connected with those underserved communities. Now,
Yes.
Within Hampton, what would you say some of those underserved communities are?
Well, what a unique space that we were in 2020 was we had the opportunity to help with the regional census. So we were able to get a hold of the census tracts and see where the undercounted populations were. And in identifying those undercounted populations, we found out that some of those same census maps overlapped food insecurity, overlapped gun violence, overlapped low education as far as graduation rates. So the census really gave us an idea of where to start looking. So when we pay attention to responding to those surveys, a lot of folks were a bit reluctant, especially during the pandemic, and having folks knock on your door. So we found ways, and the first time ever, to engage online participation. So a lot of those communities were identified through that, and just really getting out there with the healthcare system, working with social services and human services to find out, where the needs were and who they were already serving. And a lot of those, like I said, those communities were overlapped.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least during the census count, a lot of the Hispanic population was very reluctant to
Sure.
be counted. Even if they were legally here, it's still, a little bit of a stigma or disconnect. And so, and of course, there's a language barrier sometimes. Sometimes there's plenty of people who speak English. But getting into those communities or getting into some of our poorer neighborhoods
Sure.
and things like that,
Sure.
they don't get e-news. They don't connect with the city. They don't know what's going on nearly as easily.
Yeah, yeah. So even with respect to the Hispanic community, we found out that the radio airways were really wide open, and to get their cultural music, they still listen to certain radio stations. So we connected with La Selecta Radio and made sure that we got those ad spaces and that we let them know that we have resources and this is free and this is available and meet us here, or and we found out that those language barriers didn't have to be if you just connected with the folks that could speak.
Right.
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 So that's really what the department is partnerships and finding out if we can't, who can,
So, what are your goals for the department, or what are your plans as you move forward into this hopefully post-pandemic sort of era? You guys, it jump-started a lot
Sure.
of new initiatives. So,
Sure.
so where do you go with those?
Sure. Well, our flagship program, Hampton Diversity College, is still up and running. And we found that during the pandemic, we were looking to have folks still engaged, and people wanted to come back to the conversation. So pivoted in the virtual space, we were able to hold class. So we found out that that was a model that could prove itself to sustain past the pandemic. So we've able to offer virtual and in-person sessions for Diversity College, which level 1, level 2, and levels 3 are offered sequentially a few times a year. So you can check the website if you're looking to involve yourself in that program. And just really want to get people involved with the activities that are being able to be held now that the world is kind of opening back up again. So I really tell folks, just if you're not already connected with e-news, of course, there's text messaging options. There, we still do old school hand-to-hand flyers. So if you see Citizens Unity Commission, if you see Office of DEI, that might be somewhere you want to be.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely.
All right. So is there anything you want to add that I haven't asked you?
I think you've asked a lot, but I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. The Unity Commission is accepting commissioner applications. I do understand that folks are out there and they've been, wanting to serve and, sitting on their hands and not knowing what to do. Well, the office is accepting applications for volunteers to serve on the Citizens Unity Commission. So if you can go to the website and hampton.gov/unity, we would love to invite you to apply.
Yeah, and you can learn about it. You can also go straight to hampton.gov/boards, and because there is an application process,
Yes.
and you can apply to be on the Unity Commission. You could name 2 or 3 citizens boards you'd like to be on, and that's
Sure.
where City Council gets the names of people to appoint to that. So it's it's a great start getting
Yes.
into the city in any way that you want to.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to see you.
You as well.
And thank you for watching. I hope you will think about taking one of the courses, getting involved in the commission, or just learning a little bit more about diversity, equity, inclusion, and unity. Thanks for watching.